I'm Commander William Riker from the Federation Starship Enterprise.
Klim Dokachin. Quartermaster Surplus Depot Z-15.
I need some information about a Vulcan ship, the T'Pau. It was sent to you a few years ago.
Did you arrange an appointment?
An appointment? No.
Then I will be unable to help you. You may communicate with scheduling.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are Star Trek veterans, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 5 episode Unification Part 1. Original air date, November 2nd, 1991. And before we get started, I just want to apologize that my voice is still a little hoarse from being sick almost 2 weeks ago, which sucks, but it is what it is. So, as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, we start off the episode. RIP Gene Roddenberry, 1921 to 1991.
Yep. He was not that old, all things considered.
No.
He had been in poor health for quite some time. There's stories about him just kind of being listless at the office and like barely reacting to people. 2 days before, or maybe it was 3 days before his death, he saw the final original series cast film as a pre-release. Which was Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which was made around the same time as this was being made. So he managed to live in there through to the end of the original series cast for the most part, unless you want to count Generations, which we don't for many reasons.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Gene, I guess.
Honestly, Gene was a troubled man with quite a history. He had very strange ideas about women and sexuality that were not nearly as forward-thinking as he wanted.
I had no idea.
Really? Oh, well then. Allow me to tell you about them in detail.
This is shocking information I'm hearing right now.
Here's the thing, is that Gene was a progressive for his time.
No. And honestly, Gene is not quite as forward-thinking, even for his time, as he is like proponent of being. But yes, he was good for his time.
Yeah, I wasn't finished my point. So, fine. Yeah, he was progressive for his time, and sometimes, as you stated, maybe not as progressive as he was proposed to be, but he was a bit of a progressive thinker, and sometimes, when you're a progressive thinker, a lot of people call your ideas stupid and crazy, which leads you sometimes to not recognize when your actual stupid and crazy ideas are stupid and crazy. So,
wait, are you saying that giving Troy a third breast was not a good idea?
I forgot that was a...
What?
Yeah, I think originally she was supposed to...
Yeah, he wanted Troy to be like a weird alien babe with 3 tits.
Why is this somehow not... It's not surprising, but it's also... I don't care for it.
Oh, you shouldn't watch Total Recall then.
I think there's another movie that me and my brother watched when we were kids where I think there was someone with 3 boobs.
Might have been Total Recall.
I think it was Kung Pao Enter the Fist, something like that.
Oh.
Or like Kung Pao Enter the Tit, am I right?
Yeah, I know the movie you're talking about, but I don't remember the exact proper title, but yeah,
the
I know
person
what you mean.
either had 3 boobs or 1. I do not remember. I have not seen that movie since I was a child, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. What I do remember of it is pretty problematic. Okay. Anyway, so back to the recap. Okay. So the terraforming mission to Dorov 1 was canceled, and the Enterprise has received they're being recalled to Starbase 234. So we meet Fleet Admiral Brackett, who immediately I was like, red flag. This person is an admiral. I'm worried.
Yeah.
Always be worried when it's an admiral.
Yeah. That's a valid concern.
So it's like top secret information. She's got to share this in person. Here's the funny thing. This was truly the worst kept secret in the entire galaxy of the world. Like,
yeah, okay, if even the
everybody knows
Klingons can figure out about it, like, I want to know what Klingon intelligence is like, because I have a feeling it's a bunch of people bashing their heads together.
Oh, fun. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, an advisor to the Federation... to Federation leaders for generations. Okay, I did my notes in 3 different pens because 2 of them died while I was writing my notes.
Oh, God.
So they're a little hard to read because my pen was dying. Okay. 3 weeks ago, an advisor to Federation leaders for generations disappeared. Gasp. Okay. 2 days ago, intelligence reports placed him on Romulus. Another gasp. Who is it? Well, all we need to do is enhance the security footage, and it's Spock.
Yes. I loved the enhance thing that they did there. I'm just like, good job, guys. This is very 90s.
Mm-hmm. This is kind of funny. It's not, I guess, technically my first Spock encounter, because I did see the J.J. Abrams movies, and I think he's in some of those.
He's in 2.
And I think he time travels or something.
Yeah.
I could not tell you what happened in any of these movies, but I remember Winona Ryder's in it, and she's Spock's mom. So, okay. So, Picard is taking this, in my opinion, way too personally. That Spock is missing. I also had completely forgot about the mind meld. Also, do not think that's a good enough excuse for how emotionally invested Picard was. He kind of felt like he was making it not about him, but making it a little bit like
about him.
Like it was kind of in the vein of like when a celebrity dies and another celebrity posts a picture of like that one time they met that celebrity, and being like, oh, look, rip to that person. It's like you don't really know them. Like, it's fine to be like upset or whatever, but like taking this a little too personally.
He is not about literally mind connected to his father. I'm pretty sure the thoughts would be in there.
Yeah, he kind of has like, I don't know, like mind meld is kind of like a very ephemeral kind of vague thing, but like essentially, if you want to think about it, he kind of like has his memories of Spock and like the feelings that he has towards him, like within himself. So he is a little bit more attached to it than
for me example. It feels like a little bit of like a too convenient way to make Picard connected to this. Like, to me, I think Picard's made it too much about himself. Okay.
Yeah, I get the logic of the episode, but you're right that I agree with you that I wasn't feeling it. Like, it doesn't. It didn't really feel to me like,
because I think like Picard still could have done all this shit. He just didn't need to make it so much of like it was personal to him. Yeah, because like it's not really. It's kind of none of his business in a weird way.
I want to go into a little bit of a background here for the production of TNG. When TNG started, there was like explicit direction from Roddenberry and other higher ups to avoid mention of the original series as much as possible. They wanted this series to be able to stand on its own rather than just being a cheap comeback for the series.
Yeah,
and while it eventually
fan service and stuff.
Yeah,
I think they very much accomplished that.
I agree. And while they did eventually manage to change the fans' minds about the show and gain its own following, and for a time become one of the most popular television shows on the air, it wasn't through embracing the original series. It was through basically avoiding direct mention of the original series as much as possible. And they did succeed at that, but that mentality carried on for a while. And while they did originally have Dr. McCoy in the first episode, sending off the ship, if you recall, he's not mentioned by name in the episode.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. He's an old guy. And honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't put two and two together that it was the same character because the makeup was so awful.
Yeah. He looked like he was melting or something.
Yeah. So
and
at
they
this
didn't
point,
have to. He was already old. Like,
yeah, that's right. They didn't have to. Well, okay, he was already due to appear in another Star Trek film soon.
It feels like Star Trek, you either can be hot old or just like melted candle wax old. There's like no in between.
That's very true. There is no in between. So that's what they were up against. They had wanted to bring Leonard Nimoy into it for some time, but they were really struggling with something that would be like strong enough to do it. But also, Nimoy was kind of a hot item at the time. He had gotten off directing a couple of films, so he had built a career for himself outside of being Spock. And so they basically figured that they couldn't afford him. And the only reason this episode got made was because this was a big landmark year for Star Trek. This was its 25th anniversary. And the studio managed to make deals with Nimoy because he directed and acted in Star Trek VI, which, as I mentioned earlier, was made around the same time as this. So they managed to get him in on like a real cheap contract, luckily as a cross-promotion thing for the 25th anniversary of Star Trek.
Yeah. And I wonder if Gene sort of not being in the best health kind of contributed to that.
I'm sure it did, yeah. Yeah, because this would have filmed in September. I think it was middle of September that it was filmed, which is about a month. When did you say the episode aired?
November 2nd.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so it was like a month and a half later. This is actually the second episode to air after Gene died. He died 3 days after the airing of the previous episode that we did. Or sorry, 3 days before the airing.
Yeah. And like as we were talking and I was thinking more about it, Dory, that I completely agree with you that it does seem a little convenient because they hadn't built up that
the connection. They haven't. This hasn't even been mentioned since last time we saw Sarek.
Yeah, because they don't even establish that like Picard has any sort of particular reverence for Spock or anything like that. You know, I think the way it was written was a little awkward in that like it does feel like he presumes to know more than he does. Yeah. Like he feels a little like just because he mind melded, he feels like he has like this whole thing of the situation, and it's like it makes sense for him to like feel that deeply about Sarek because they went through a thing together. But it's like you don't actually know Spock, like you know his father's impression of him.
Yeah, so this felt a little loosey goosey to me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Okay, so then Picard, he does like a little speech with Riker about, you know, fathers and sons, and Riker's like, don't I fucking know it. Okay, so then there are metal fragments found during an intelligence sweep so basically I think it was like a Ferengi ship exploded, and there was this metal bits that came from, I guess, another ship that origin was Vulcan. And it was supposed to be like the Ferengi ship was supposed to be like the metal fragments were the stuff was found in crates marked medical supplies. This is so much of stuff that's honestly almost not even relevant.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay.
It is a weird B plot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get a visit from Perrin, aka Mrs. Sarek. And okay, this shot made I don't understand. Okay, I don't know who directed this, but they need a timeout because okay, she comes in, she says some lines, and then she walks away from Picard. and faces the camera, and they just keep having their conversation, and she's got her back to him, and she barely like emotes. She does like no reactions, and I'm like, why are you not facing him? He's asking her questions, and she's just looking at us. I'm like, turn around.
This is like I feel like this is a pretty big trope in general for like dramatic conversations where like the one person's like looking away. But like
but this
they
was
made
weird.
This,
like
this one was like so in your face about it.
Because like I used to watch soap operas when I was younger, like Passions, Days of Our Lives, All My Children, whatever. I watched, if I had a PA day from school, I was watching soap operas. And The Price is Right, but mostly soap operas. So like, but this wasn't even like as good as a soap opera, like the dramatic thing, because like the person in the close-up would be doing like some crazy facial expressions or like looking away, and she just faced us and gave us nothing. Like this, so, Mrs. Perrin gave us nothing.
You know what's interesting about that? Like, I wasn't thinking too much about it while I was watching it, but I did notice there were a lot of instances where actors were talking to each other, but they weren't looking at each other, and I found that really strange. And it's odd because looking into the director's history on Star Trek, he was first AD on tons of things up until the second season when he started directing a few. And most of the episodes that he directed are pretty unmemorable. But he directed Sarek. So, okay, it makes sense that they brought him back here. He directed Ensign Ro, so we know that they can do drama pretty well. And he directs upcoming 2 of the best dramas in the whole series. So I'm really confused about what happened in this episode. Because, that is really weird.
Yeah, this episode is a little.
I'm wondering if that wasn't a directorial choice, and maybe that was that was script directions. That could have been the teleplay.
Okay. Well, it was dumb. Okay, so Perrin is upset because
Spock. Wait.
Oh, maybe they just lost all their coverage.
Wait. Okay,
and they had to reshoot it.
There is something that I would like to point out then that might be a little bit important in terms of the background of it. So the teleplay was written by a prominent Star Trek writer that I've mentioned before, Jerry Taylor, and Taylor was approached during the writing of this episode because they knew, like, the production knew what the episode was about. They knew it was going to be a landmark episode, regardless whether or not it was successful, and she was actually approached to write the novelization of it at the same time that she was writing the teleplay.
Interesting.
And she wanted to break into books, so she's like, "Oh, this is a way to do it by writing a licensed Star Trek book." Apparently, all right.
Okay.
So
I mean,
she had her hands full. Yeah. Originally, Michael Piller wanted to write both this episode and its sequel. But he had his hands full dealing with putting together the thing and producing it. So he wrote one of the 2, and then Jerry Taylor wrote part 1.
Okay. Perrin, man, she's something else. So she's upset that Spock didn't say goodbye to Sarek when he left. And she's also, Sarek apparently wasn't offended, but Perrin was very offended and upset at Spock because Spock took publicly criticized Sarek's position on the Cardassian War, and she said that he showed no loyalty for his father. I got lots of problems with that, but we're barely into this recap, and we'll circle around to why I have such an issue.
Look, it's a big episode. It's pretty dense.
Yeah.
No, I this part stood out to me as well.
Yeah. Okay. Sarek wants to make up. This is okay. So Picard asks to see Sarek, and Perrin's basically like, listen, if anybody else asks, probably say no, but you guys have something special, so I'll allow it. Okay. All right. So the Vulcans then confirm that metal shit is theirs, and when the Frankie ship went down, when they exploded, the debris was like sent across like a huge radius. And okay, anyways, so we cut to Sarek. He is writhing around on, I guess,
it's supposed to be a sci-fi bed.
It's a bed in the middle of a room
It
Like,
looked
no
like
pillows or
it
blankets.
looked like a
It's a
it
sci-fi
looked like a
bed.
mat on an altar.
Yeah.
And he's not doing great. He is a little agitated, to say the least. And he's not listening to Perrin, but when they say Spock, this brings him back, and he recognizes Picard. And he is also wearing a choir gown. And Picard asks if Spock, if there's anybody on Romulus that Spock might reach out to, and we learn about Pardek. He's a Romulan senator. Suspects maybe they met at the Kittimer conference, which that sounds very familiar. I know the name Kittimer, but I can't place what it's from.
Worf's parents were killed at Kittimer.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's okay.
where the
Gotcha.
Romulans basically snuck attack the Klingon outpost.
Yes, it's
Okay,
also
gotcha.
where the where the Federation and the Klingons signed their big peace treaty, which is why they're allies. That's actually probably that them mentioning it is probably as part of the tie-in to Star Trek VI that came out around the same time, because it's about those peace accords.
Okay. Oh, Sarek will not accept the idea that Spock defected. And Spock tells a story about Spock liking the mountains when he was younger. Sarek did not like the mountains when Spock was younger. And he was punished, but
the
did
whole
not
thing is,
care. He'd go back to the mountains.
Spock would sneak off and hang out in the mountains, and Sarek was like, what are you doing up there? And Spock wouldn't tell him, and he's like, hey, fucking tell me. And Spock was like, no. And then he's like, well, you can't go to the mountains anymore. And Spock was like, fuck you, and still would keep going to the mountains.
Fuck you! You can't stop me.
Yeah.
Okay, so oh my gosh. Okay, so then Picard is saying goodbye to Sarek. Sarek's getting a little bit out of it again. Oh my gosh. And he does he tries to do the live long and prosper hands, but he can't do it. And Picard helps him, and I liked that. Mm-hmm. That was very nice. He does not remember, though, the rest of the live long, and he can't remember prosper, which is very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
A little bit more background. There's a lot of background about this episode.
Maybe,
clearly,
can I make a request? Maybe can we wait to the background till I'm we're a little bit more into the recap or after the recap. So otherwise, this is going to take an hour to get through. Oh, okay. Picard is going to he's going to go into the neutral zone, and so he needs a cloaked ship. So they're trying to reach out to Gowron to get a cloaking ship, and we know Picard's gonna be up to something because he's in his sport mode outfit. Mm-hmm. But Gowron has been ignoring the Enterprise for 3 days already.
He left them on red.
Yeah, to say the absolute least. Yeah, Worf says Gowron has been rewriting Klingon history, and that it was his quote-unquote genius that brought the end of the Civil War. And I just wrote in my notes, who would believe that? Anybody who knows Gowron would know that's not true. This is fan fiction.
Yeah, unfortunately, the majority of Klingon Empire doesn't really know Gowron, so it's who are they gonna believe? This,
the man whose eyes are about to fall out of his face,
or the Federation, right?
No. Yeah. So there is no more mention of the Federation helping his rise to power. But Picard doesn't really care about the credit. He just wants a ship. Mm-hmm. So okay. We learned that Pardek, who is we didn't meet him yet, but we heard about him from Sarek. He is actually the other person with Spock in the enhanced photo. Mm-hmm. So he's been a senator for 9 decades. Loves his job, obviously. He's considered a man of the people, and he's sponsored many reforms, and he's an advocate for peace. So good for him.
He's like Romulan Bernie Sanders.
Aw.
Because they're the Senate considers him a radical and all that shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Which Bernie Sanders is not radical, but Republicans consider him so.
Yes.
Data digs deep and thinks Picard might be able to like get to him if he goes to like get to Pardek if he goes to the Crocton segment. That's where he like is the senator, and he goes on if they go on the third day of the Romulan week when Senate is not in session. So then we get a call for Picard. It's Bunjik.
They basically wanted to say like Wednesday, but not actually say Wednesday.
It's this guy. He's the junior adjutant to the diplomatic delegation. The silence that was in response to that title in this episode was so funny.
Oh, basically, it's like they sent like someone who's very not important to talk to us, which shows that they're like disrespecting us, basically.
Yeah,
by sending this like junior level.
I kind of love that guy. He looks like a discount Tim Curry.
I know that actor, and that is not his voice. I think they dubbed him.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's the same actor who he's one of those that guys. He played like a crazy Bajoran Vedic in DS9, where he's like the wormhole is going to like these Cardassians are going to destroy the wormhole or whatever the fuck.
Okay. What's the actor or the character's name again?
I don't remember.
Like, it's B''IJIK.
No, that's the character's name, I think.
No, that's what I
don't know
wanted.
what the actor's name is.
The actor's name is Erica Vari. And
is not familiar.
no, he kind of does look like a discount Tim Curry.
Yeah.
You're right. He played the asshole Vedic in DS9 Destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. And that like
I remember him.
I know his voice, like, because his voice is pretty distinctive as well, but that is not his voice.
All right.
I think they dubbed him.
I mean, either way, he didn't really act much like a Klingon to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically delivers, he says, Gowron and the High Council are not available at the moment. Can he take a message? And Picard's just like, listen, if you help us, we will owe you we will owe you our gratitude. But listen, I'm sure we can find someone else in the Klingon Empire who will help, and then we'll owe them our gratitude. And then this guy's like, okay, wait. And then Picard's like, also, please tell Gowron that I am immensely gratified that he's prospering so well. A tribute to his skilled leadership. That's such a burn. So, okay.
That actor was also in The Mummy. He was Dr. Terrence Bay.
Oh, shit!
Wait, what?
Oh, he's not there very much. He's like a side character.
Which guy is in the... Like, who, like...
His character name is Dr. Terrence Bay. B-E-Y.
But, like... Because, like, there's Ardith Bay, but I don't remember who Terrence Bay is.
He's, what do you call it? He's at the museum near the beginning.
Is he the library, the guy who's like Evie's boss?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's like the museum. What's it called? Curator or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that was his name. Oh, party! Good for him. Oh yeah, he does have a distinct voice. Holy shit! Yeah, that is not his voice. Oh, okay.
Either that or he was doing a different voice on purpose.
Oh, that's true. Maybe he did like an.
After all, he is an actor.
It kind of looked dubbed, to be honest. Like, it looked ADR.
Oh, it didn't look like that to me, but all right.
Yeah.
That would be really weird to dub over, too, especially considering the shot. Like, it's a close-up.
Yeah. Either way, does not matter.
Yes. Okay, fair.
So Data, Dr. C is like, Data needs like the absolute wildest makeover to become a Romulan. Dr. C asks Data if his ears come off.
I mean, it's not an unreasonable question.
Yeah.
Also, he's lying. I've seen them removed.
Data. They also need to make him ear prosthetics and change his skin color. Oh boy. Okay. So, Oh, they learned Picard's eyes are not perfectly even. Is okay. So the Dr. C then says that Picard and Data will have to go to Mr. Mott for their hair design.
Oh boy,
What's up,
you don't get to
Mr.
see him
Mott?
though, so
Yeah. Okay, so then
they didn't have him in
Geordi-
the budget.
Yeah. Okay, so Geordi then is able to figure out that the debris of the Vulcan ship is the T'Pau, which is an older ship from Quelar 2. Should have been in a depot. I thought they were going a completely different direction with this. I was like, did Spock use this ship to get away? Mm-hmm. I don't think so from what happens in this episode. Okay, so then they're like, guess what? Klingon vessel is here. So then we meet Captain Kavada, played by Stephen Root, known from Office Space, Dodgeball, Barry, couple episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Boardwalk Empire, a bunch of shit. Man, this guy's resume is extensive. I'm sure if people Google Stephen Root, you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. I'm sure you'll recognize him.
He played Bill in King of the Hill. He was the voice actor.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never seen King of the Hill, so cool. Where am I? Oh yeah. So he already knows. Everybody fucking knows that Spock is on Romulus. It is not. The communication on this is wild. There are no secrets in the Federation or anything. It's so funny. They know this, but the Admiral Beckett's you need to come in so I can tell you in person. It's that secret. Not that secret, I guess. Okay, so Picard and Data they were roommates.
Yeah.
They were roommates.
They were roommates. Picard, basically they're like, we're going to make you uncomfortable and here's your room. And it's basically a bench, or they call it a shelf.
Yeah.
It's very funny. But Picard is not going to he's like, nope, this is fine. Thanks. I'll enjoy the digs. And he's really looking forward to Goch. So, okay.
Yeah. He's basically trying to save face in front of the Klingons.
He's like the
he's like, I'm not going to let you get to me.
He's the dog that's sitting at the table with the fire around him, and he's going, this is fine.
Yeah. No, because he's literally like, I'm not gonna let you get to me, I'm fine with my shelf bed.
In the meantime, the Enterprise is going to the Federation Surplus Depot, operated by the Zakdorn on Quelar 2. Mm-hmm. They want to know what the fuck happened, how the deflector, how the stuff ended up with the Ferengis. It does make sense. So we meet who might be my favorite character of the whole episode.
Yeah, he's
this
fun.
His name is Clem Dakachow.
Dakachow.
Okay. He is the quartermaster of the Surplus Depot Z15. So Riker goes, I need some information about a Vulcan ship, the T'Pau. It was sent a few years ago. And then Clem goes, did you arrange an appointment? Riker goes, an appointment? No. And Clem goes, then I'll be unable to help you. You may communicate with scheduling. And then just hangs up on him. I loved it. Yeah. Riker is pretty done with this guy.
Yeah. Also, this isn't the first time we've seen a Zakdorn.
Oh.
Do you remember that episode where Riker took over this old piece of shit ship, and they were going to have a pretend battle? But then the Ferengi showed up? Yeah.
Yes.
So the guy who was in charge of it was a Zakdorn, and he played Data at
the game thing.
Yeah, the game thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I remember that.
So they're known to be kind of full of themselves. And also Riker has personal experience.
Yeah.
And as we all
Being shit
know,
on.
every species in Star Trek is defined by a set of character personalities that is
Yeah.
monotonous across the entire species.
They can
Yeah.
only be one thing.
Yep.
Yes.
So Riker assigns Troy to Klim. Klim comes onto the Enterprise. He's wearing a very spiffy green and yellow coat with some like fun decals. So Klim says to Troy, "Who are you?" Troy goes, "Deanna Troy, ship's counselor." Klim goes, he figures that we don't get out to see a lot of handsome women out this way, and someone like you might get a little more cooperation from me. He's probably right.
Yeah.
I like that. That was so funny. So Klim's like, yep, the ship is docked, and at these coordinates, the Enterprise goes, finds nothing. So he's like shaken to his very core because like shit like this doesn't happen. Like they're organized as fuck, apparently. Okay, so then it was supposed to be routed to the Tripoli, another holding vessel on the outer rim of the shipyard. So they go there. Tripoli's not there, but they've been sending shipments daily. So they're like, well, where the fuck is our shit? And another shipment is scheduled to be going out in 2 hours. So Riker's like, we're going to set up the Enterprise as undercover as trash. Mm-hmm. So they just kind of like turn off a lot of power shit and just like hover with a bunch of other garbage ships. Okay. Meanwhile, back in with the Klingons, Data suggests Picard take the shelf because they're gonna go to sleep. Data just stands to go to sleep, and it's so creepy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Picard cannot get comfortable, but Data is just like standing there staring into nothing, and he's studying so he can like get into his role of being a Romulan. But then Data is like now facing Picard, and this like really bothers Picard, which honestly understandable.
Yeah.
And so Picard's like, fuck sleep. It's not happening. So then Captain Kavada calls him to the bridge, and they received a subspace message for Picard. Sarek has died. Mm-hmm. Rip to Sarek.
Mark Leonard actually didn't know that his character died when he came in to do the scene.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he found out afterwards. Apparently, Leonard Nimoy was just like, hey, don't worry about it. This is Star Trek. You can come back because you died off screen.
Oh, true.
And it's like, yeah, you know what? Fair point.
Yeah.
Here's a random question. I mean, I'm going exactly against what I previously asked a little while ago of like, can we leave like shit to the, you know what? No, we're going to finish this fucking recap and then I'm going to ask my questions and my thing. No, we're going to fucking finish this. This episode is so stupid dense. Okay, we're trucking through. Okay. Okay. Unidentified vessel on the way to the Enterprise gang, their stakeout. Okay, they are super heavily armed. They're gone out of their way to try to not be identified. They've got a fuck ton of cargo that like Geordi can sort of see, and it's like weapons. So, red alert, that ship fucking ready to fire, and does so. So Riker then fires back. He's like to get their attention and to like shoot out one of like their weapons thing. And, accidentally, then because they've got so much fucking weapons in the ship, the whole thing blows. Mm-hmm. So whoops. I mean, it's okay. I don't think Riker did the wrong thing. So
no.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure they would have liked to know what the fuck was happening, what these guys were doing, etc. Riker's face though, he's just kind of like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Whoops. Okay. So now we get to see the most terrifying part of this episode. Data has a Romulan. Picard doesn't look that bad as a Romulan.
Really?
It's like,
I think it's the opposite way around. I think Picard looks weird and Data looks okay.
Oh, see, like Picard, I mean, he doesn't look great, but like Picard, I can kind of just be like, okay. I think it's the eyebrows. The eyebrows really throw me off with Data. It's, I don't know, for whatever, Data just looks terrifying. As a Romulan.
Data actually looks okay to me. But I'm also used to seeing Brent Spiner out of makeup more. So this is very much like, oh, this is probably the least amount of makeup that Brent Spiner's had to wear for TNG at this point.
Yeah, I guess I'm so used to Data just like looking like Data.
Yeah, that's fair. I was for a very long
time
as well.
This is like alarming for me.
That's fair.
Yeah, so Picard then says that he feels the effects of Sarek's death. Does he? Because you didn't seem to know when it happened. So, Picard, this is not about you. Okay, anyways. Okay, Picard's like, okay. He's like, oh shit. Okay, we were supposed to be like, what the fuck to Spock. But now we have to be like, what the fuck, Spock. But also your dad's dead. So that's real fun. So, okay, Data asks, well, Vulcans live so long. How come they didn't make up? And Picard's like, fathers and sons, you know?
Yeah.
Data's like, okay. They're complicated. Great, thanks. They're stubborn. Who isn't? This episode really goes out of their way to make, like, there's this is like, this, the whole, like, if this show had another subtitle underneath The Next Generation, it would be Daddy Issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then Kavada, the captain, he's like, don't you two look sweet? Be careful, android. Some Romulan beauty might take a liking to you. And then he hisses, and he goes, lick that paint right off your ears. That's so creepy.
I find this Klingon captain really weird because, like, in the very first scene that he's in, he is speaking to them, but deliberately not looking at them the whole time, and it just seems so off. So, yeah, this is a very interesting episode in that regard.
Yeah. Okay, so then Kavada makes it very clear that there is no rescue mission, so they're basically on their own. And, okay, so now we're on Romulus, and there's, like, this guy, a Romulan, in, like, this office, and Senator Pardek comes in. He's like, hey, do you know this guy Picard? And here's my question. Where the fuck did they get that photo?
I don't know.
That's really weird. And it looks like they got a photo of Picard and printed it on like 8.5 by 11 printer paper and just stuck it on this little board. It looks like shit. It looks terrible. So there are rumors of Picard, that Picard is on his way. Truly, no secrets in this galaxy. The Federation must have another leak. Yeah, how does everybody truly know about everything? Okay, so then Picard and Data they're now on the street, and they're looking for like the street from the area from the photo, the enhanced photo. And Data keeps calling Picard Captain, and then Picard goes, "Don't call me Captain." And Data goes, "I understand, sir." Oh, Data.
Thank you, Data.
So they figure out the photo was taken in front of an intercessor's office, which happens to be a relative of Pardek. So they decide to go for food because it's still closed, and so they eat some questionable soup. And then Data notices Pardek is like over by the entrance, and Picard, he does not look like he's enjoying his soup. And Data's like, you should need to pretend you like this soup. There's a lot of soup stuff happening. And then these guys come over, and I'm like, well, Picard not liking soup, that's what gave him away. Thanks, Picard. Couldn't pretend to like soup. So then Data and Picard are taken into a very well-lit cave. And we learn that these fake soldiers are actually with Pardek. So they are not actually bad guys. They're just like, we needed to get you guys off the street.
Gasp.
And then another reveal, out of a random tunnel comes Spock. Ah! And then we're done. The episode's done. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have my like things that I want to talk about, but Jeff, do you want to go first? Because I told you to wait.
Yes, so
Go for it.
I mentioned the thing about Mark Leonard not knowing that his character died in this episode because he thought he was just coming in to do the one scene, which, in all fairness, he killed it. Like, I think Sarek is fantastic
I mean,
in that
he sure
scene.
killed his character, yeah.
Well, yes, rest in pieces. But I found it really interesting the way that they let Sarek out because Mark Leonard played the first Romulan in Star Trek in an episode in the original series, and here he is, and the entire discussion is about his son going to the Romulans, and I just find that, a little bit of a poignant observation, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And that's
a bit of a callback in a way.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, like, there are other background things that I could bring up about it, but that one really hit something for me because, like, I never really thought about it before, I guess. This is the first time that I've seen this episode in quite a while. It's not one that I go back to because it's dense. It's part of a two-parter, so it's not really an episode that's good for showing new people. If I'm doing a watch-through of TNG with someone, it takes a while to get to this one because of how deep in it is. I don't consider it a standout. Not that it's bad. It's just because it's so dense and it's about other things that happen in the series technically as well. I don't feel like it stands out by itself as an episode as well as some other ones do.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more impactful if you're already familiar with, like, Star Trek lore.
Yeah, this is a Star Trek episode that is very much invested in Star Trek.
Yeah. There's a lot of references to a bunch of other stuff. So, like,
yes,
if you showed me this episode out of nothing, I'd be like, I don't understand what the fuck's happening.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I kind of understand what the fuck is happening. So
yeah, I mean, you understand that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say this episode is dense, but also nothing happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, so much is going on, and yet nothing really progresses.
Yeah. This episode is all set up for the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope the payoff is good because this was, like, kind of boring.
Oh, Dory.
Oh no,
you should know to expect payoffs to be bad in Star Trek.
Oh
no! I'm not telling you if it is. I'm just saying if it's a payoff in Star Trek, expect it to be
lower my
bad.
expectations.
Yeah,
absolutely, every time. Especially around two-parters. God damn, does Star Trek get them wrong often?
In my experience so far, they've done a good job with part one, but then part two kind of ends up being lacking. But unfortunately for this, part one is lacking.
I think
this one.
I don't know if the payoff's good, but I think part two is definitely far more interesting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because
I would agree with that.
When I was remembering this, like, these two episodes, besides, like, one moment, everything I remembered was from episode 2, and I forgot that, like, basically how little, like, happens in the first episode.
I remembered the entire Sarek thing because that moment kind of sticks with me.
Yeah.
But I also always remember the Data and Picard in the bedroom scene.
Yeah. That's the So I guess I should say two moments that I remember.
I love when Picard tells him to turn around and just stop looking at me, and he's just like, absolutely, sir, and just does the most awkward turn while continuing to stare at him.
Because he turns his body fully before he turns his head back.
Yes. But his expression doesn't change.
Yeah. It was just a genius move on Brent Spiner's part.
Absolutely.
He's so good. Yeah. They're both so good in that scene, but that's just like an extra bit of like,
also,
so good.
Why is Data the one going with him? Data barely knows how to pretend to be human. He's going to pretend to be a Romulan? What the fuck?
Because the point isn't to fit in with Romulan society very much. It's to go find Spock, and presumably Spock has a safe place.
Yeah.
But why is Data the best person for this?
Yeah.
Because Data has lots of information regarding the Romulans that somebody who may be a spy would not necessarily have, because the thing about the Romulans is that they don't fucking know very much about them. Yeah. That's the whole shtick about the Romulans, that they just don't know anything about them.
It just seems like an unnecessary risk to take Data.
I agree.
Like when you're trying to hide out. But they needed this series' Spock to meet urges.
They did.
Spock.
They did. And it does go pretty well, as I recall.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it also feels like, what was the point? Like, why was Picard... truly, they could have gotten anybody to do this. it doesn't make any sense they would get Picard to do it.
Because
there's
Picard's
no
a main
reason
character.
why Picard.
This is
do
not
it.
the first time that Star Trek sends main officers off on secret missions. Other times, that actually, in one case, it ends up being one of the best episodes of the series. But I won't go into any of that later or now.
It truly doesn't make sense that Starfleet as a whole organization chose Picard to do this.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It is interesting that the episode finally gives us a glimpse of the Romulans a little bit, and they are like the most brown culture in all of Star Trek.
Yeah, he means
except
like,
maybe the Cardassians.
Yeah, he means like aesthetically, not like
Yes.
brown people.
No, I just mean that everything on their planet is brown.
Yeah, it's a lot
Everything
of
is
beige.
monotonous. Yeah.
They're into neutrals.
Yeah.
I do like that that it finally breaks the idea that Romulus is not like a dictatorship, because everything that we've seen about them up until this point implies that they are. We know there is a Romulan council of some sort, but we have no idea what that means. Every actual like character that has been mentioned is basically just referencing Roman things.
Yeah, that's because Romulans are very thinly veiled
Yeah, I know.
Romans.
I know, but that's the
I
thing.
think
Rome is famous for not the Senate, but for a dictatorship with the Senate
being
sitting
built in a
underneath
day.
it.
No, Rome is pretty famous for the Senate. Like, very famous for the Senate. Like, that's
Okay, fine. But it
Yeah.
was still a dictatorship with the Senate underneath of it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like
Yeah.
the Roman Senate was like a pretty, like that is a pretty well known thing about them.
Okay, yeah.
Like Roman
Also, that-
senators are, yeah, pretty well.
Also, the other thing we know about Rome is it wasn't built in a day.
Neither was Romulus.
Okay. I have some questions.
Okay.
Number 1.
Are these Star Trek questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. Was this just a coincidence that the tribute to Jean was in the episode where Sarek died?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Just purely coincidence because it felt
they
very
technically
on the nose in a
technically
weird
could have
way.
mentioned it in the last episode, but I'm sure there wasn't enough time to get the tapes out to everyone since, as I mentioned, Jean died like a couple of days before that episode aired.
Yeah.
So this would have been the first one that went out to the that went out to all of the places where it was being shown after his death. So yeah,
This was quite
it just
a
happened
coincidence,
that
like,
way.
that this
Yeah.
was the episode that they put a tribute to him.
Yep.
That's wild. Okay, so I'd like to go back to earlier in the episode when Perrin, Sarek's wife, is speaking with Picard, and she says that she was upset with Spock because Spock publicly criticized Sarek's stance on the Cardassian War. What sides were they on? What? It means one of them were like pro-Cardassian.
Not necessarily.
What? What are
No.
what is-
Okay.
What are the
this is-
stances in this?
No, I think it was more of like how to deal with the conflict rather than like being pro
'Cause,
or
like,
anti-war.
Because that's not how it sounded. She made it
So,
sound like
Dory,
like one was maybe pro, one was against.
Dory. So here's the thing. The Cardassian War at this point is something that's been mentioned, I think, twice. Both times in very vague terms. The most detail that we ever really get on it is hearing a little bit more about O'Brien's experiences in it, but we don't have a fucking clue what the Cardassian War was, and we don't know how the Federation was involved in it.
Wait,
What
but
happened?
Yeah,
but
so,
isn't the Cardassians the ones who are in Ensign Rose episode though too?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
So we do know a bit about them, that they're
Oh no, I
kind
didn't
of-
say we didn't know about the Cardassians. I said we don't know much about the Cardassian War. Whatever that war was, whatever happened,
Yeah.
we don't know.
we don't really know what precipitated the war, like why it happened, why it was with the Federation specifically, like
when it happened, how long it was.
So they're not really implying anything, as like they kept it vague because they don't even know like what the deal is with the Cardassian War. However, I do see your point because based on everything we know of their characters, I could very easily see it. Because even like Sarek himself says that like Spock was always kind of impressionable and idealist, and like, you know, he wants to keep a dialogue open with the Romulans and that kind of thing. So my headcanon is that Spock was probably a bit more of like wanted more peaceful solutions and stuff, and Sarek was probably more like the Cardassians are just bad, so fuck them, because that's the way he kind of thinks about the Romulans. It seems like that's like, the Romulans suck, so why would you want to talk to them, sort of thing. And I just, the whole situation, like parent talking, just like,
it made me angry.
Yeah, it made me angry because it's, to me, it comes off of like, you know, when you're more progressive and you come home to your conservative family and they like basically like ostracize you for having these more progressive ideals, you know.
Yeah, and she was the one who was offended, like,
yeah,
sorry, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, because Spock was like,
didn't show loyalty to his dad. If your family member has a bad take, I don't think you're legally obligated to stand by them.
I'm very much of the thing that like family loyalty is bullshit. Like, you shouldn't be loyal to them just because they're your family. Yep. Like, yeah, like there is an inherent family structure there, and like a structure of support and that kind of stuff. But I don't think that you, like, if your family sucks, like, I don't think you owe anything to them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a couple more bits of nuance to it that, like, I won't get into, but, like, in general, it's like, if your family sucks, like, screw family loyalty. Like, they suck. Like, it's not like, oh, they're your dad. Oh, they're your brother. Like, who cares? Like, if Spock thought that his dad had a bad take, he has every reason to be like, I think that take is bad. Especially when they're both, like, highly influential people that have effects on, like, actual policy and stuff. And it's like, no, I think your take on this policy is bad. You know, I think there's even more obligation to be like, no, I disagree. Publicly, because you're both heavily influential figures.
Agree 100%. Yeah.
So yeah,
because I mean, if
was
Sarek's gonna say,
angry.
yeah, because like if Sarek is gonna make his his position public, why can't Spock? Yeah, and for Perrin to be like and saying that, oh, she's just protective of her husband. Okay, no, that's not.
It is worth pointing out that throughout all of like Star Trek lore up until this point, anyway, the Vulcans have been portrayed as essentially complete pacifists. And it's well, not complete pacifists, but at least pacifists towards other cultures. We'll not talk about the Vulcan weird sex rituals here. But Sarek being the more pure Vulcan at that point, I would think that if the difference between them is about the Cardassian War, then maybe Spock had the bad take.
Well, not necessarily that it's bad, because like a less peaceful take is not necessarily the bad take.
Yeah, we really don't know what it was.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it. The way they present Spock, though, it doesn't seem like it would be Spock that had the bad take.
It's really hard to tell.
You know what? It's probably like they probably are trying to. it might be that neither of their takes was bad, just different, you know?
Yeah,
and
that's a
it
good
was,
point, actually.
That it was like it was like very fundamentally different.
Yeah,
You know,
I could see that.
In a situation like the Cardassian War, the way it's portrayed, always came off of like we're between a rock and a hard place kind of deal. So maybe it was just like a situation where there's like really isn't a right answer, or like it's, you know, just too complicated for that, and they came out on opposite sides of a situation that like really doesn't have like a right answer.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
But unfortunately, we just don't know.
Yes.
But either way, regardless of what it was, I just really don't like Perrin's take on the situation. That it's like, it obviously doesn't bother Sarek, right?
Yeah. So, like, why should it bother you?
Yeah. And also, like, remember, Perrin is not Spock's mother. She's just his dad's wife. You know? And, like, I totally get it, too, that, like, I forgot where I was going, so. But, yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's like,
another case of someone, like, it's truly nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And so why are you making it about yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
this
the
is
subtext of this episode, is like, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about Sarek.
Yeah, it's like, maybe you should know, like, I kind of get it, like, you know, you're probably going to be pretty protective of your significant other, right? But it's like, she is not clued in on the whole history of everything. Like, I'm sure she sees it from Sarek's point of view, right? And it's like, it doesn't seem like her and Spock have much of a relationship. So it's like, she doesn't know his side of things. And it's like, this isn't your business to get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I was offended because my husband, who is an ambassador, and my stepson, who is an ambassador, disagreed on policy publicly, which is like, yeah, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Like, two politicians didn't agree with each other. When does that ever happen? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that was like mostly my questions of, was it a coincidence that this was the Jean and Sarek death episode, my anger at Perrin?
Yeah. It was a coincidence, and Perrin, I don't agree with how you view this situation.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to mention, because, okay, Klim, the guy, the quartermaster at the depot, okay,
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna for sure be on my list, for like favorite one episode. Well, I guess he might be in the next episode, I would assume, but he was great. But I do want to mention, I did look up his filmography, and the actor's name was Graham Jarvis, from Toronto, coincidentally.
Oh.
Yeah. I just really liked him in this episode.
Yeah.
His whole thing with Riker was very funny, and his like interactions with Troy were great. So I do want to mention, he was in Fame, the TV show, which I did watch a bunch of episodes back in the day. He was in the movie Misery.
Oh, as who?
I don't know. I've never seen Misery. I just looked through his IMDb page. He was in like a ton of like shows where he was just in for like one episode. He was in both an episode of MASH and Trapper John MD as two different characters, which makes a lot of sense considering two different actors play Trapper John MD. Even though same character. And he was also, I had to mention this. I didn't even look to see what this movie was about, but he was in a movie called Do You Know the Muffin Man? I thought that needed to be mentioned. So
interesting.
Rip to Graham Jarvis. so good in this episode, and I hope we see him in the next episode. Because, man, just so dry and so perfect. Just his, like, you have to communicate with scheduling. Yeah. Just goodbye.
And I
so good.
I really like his interactions with Troy because he's like sort of flirting and hitting on her, but he's not gross about it. He's not creepy about it.
Yeah, he's you thought a pretty lady would convince me? You're right.
Yeah.
And then he's nice to her.
Yeah. Because, like, so many times they try to do that, like, the sort of, like, you know, what's supposed to be, like, oh, the charming old man, like, flirting with the younger ladies or whatever, and it always comes off as, like, fucking gross. But this guy, he's just, like, his attitude is fun, not creepy.
Yeah, he's just behaving like a normal person.
Yeah. He's normal about it.
Yeah. We love when people aren't creeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, like, everything for me in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much, like, I don't have much to say about this episode because, like I said, like, a lot of things happen, but, like, nothing happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, story-wise, it's not really, like, there's not much there.
It almost feels like the B plot more happens.
Yeah,
than the A plot.
Yeah, this episode did feel, because I completely forgot about this B plot, and it feels like it's like more of the episode than the A plot is.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then I guess we'll just move on to favorite moments then and lines.
Of course, Clem and his exchange. I read it before. I won't read it again. I liked. Well, it was terrifying, but seeing Picard and Data as Romulans was pretty wild. Oh, the room, like the room, and they were roommates. Picard sleeping on the shelf and Data just stirring. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Picard's line of, like, when they send the junior guy to talk to them because Gowron is not available in the High Council, and Picard's like, it's like a burn. Picard goes, also, please tell Gowron that I am immensely gratified that he is prospering so well. A tribute to his skilled leadership. Mm-hmm. Like, that's great. I liked that there was a mention of Mr. Mott. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know Spock well enough to be like, oh my god, the Spock reveal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, okay, he comes out of another cave with the tunnel in the cave. That was a very well lit cave, though. Yeah. Can we just?
It's also
very
like
well lit.
I got to talk about, like, now that you mention it, the reveal isn't all that, like, gasp worthy in my opinion, and it's like this could very well be influenced by just, like, years upon years of, like, Star Trek and, like, knowing this episode and all that stuff, but, like, we know the whole episode we're going after Spock.
Yeah.
And it's not a surprise
exactly.
that he would be with Perrin because they said that's who he's probably with.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the fact that Spock is in the episode is revealed by two things. One, the opening teaser.
Yeah.
And two, the guest starring Leonard Nimoy as Spock immediately after the opening teaser.
Yeah.
So you know he's there somewhere.
Like, I was more gasping when that, like, the ship full of weapons was, like, started to fire on the Enterprise. I was like, gasp. Mm-hmm.
And, like,
and then it blew up and I was like, gasp. But then Spock shows up and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And, like, this is coming from a person who, my favorite series for a long time was the original series. Spock was also my favorite character. I think I don't know if we've discussed this on the podcast, but we've definitely discussed it in general. That, like, Spock was sort of my first, like, he was, like, my sexual awakening. He was, like, my first crush, like, sort of thing. Was fucking Spock. Yeah.
I think we did talk about it on the podcast at one point.
Yeah. So, like, I, like, And I like Leonard Nimoy in general, too. So, like, but this does nothing for me. And I don't think it ever did anything for me either.
Yeah. It's very anticlimactic.
Yeah, because it's like, oh.
I think it's something that was probably much more effective in 1991 when it aired. But it's worth considering that people didn't think they would get a crossover of different Star Trek series like this.
Yeah.
This was the only other one that was going at the time. Nobody knew that DS9 was coming. They were in like the earliest parts of pre-production at this point.
Yeah.
There were 2 Star Trek series. This one hadn't completely proven itself yet.
Series.
Series. Yeah, sorry. This one hadn't completely proven itself yet.
We haven't had one of those in a while.
And suddenly they were all like, oh my God, the original series is crossing over. This is the thing we've been waiting for.
Yeah. No, totally.
The ultimate crossover event. The Spock cinematic universe.
the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny.
Oh God, that was good. The Spock cinematic universe. Oh, fuck.
The Spinomatic universe. Where was I going with this? Yeah, no, I totally get all that, but I think like this moment in the episode is like not as impactful as it could be because we already know he's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that it definitely had more impact in 1991 than it does now.
Oh, for
especially
sure.
Especially considering, like this is really, really on point right now. The amount of crossover shit that we get nowadays, we are absolutely saturated with it.
Yeah.
Are we?
Dude, the biggest film series in the entire world right now is all crossover. None of them are direct sequels.
yeah,
None of them. Few of them are direct sequels to each other. Creating shared universes is like the thing in film now.
Okay, here's the deal. I kind of forgot about the MCU. And okay. I was thinking of crossover in a different sense. For some reason, like, even though it makes sense in the way you're talking about it, for some reason I wasn't connecting, like, crossover, like, within the same franchise. I was thinking of, like, franchise crossovers, which like so like one example is like there were crossover episodes of Murder, She Wrote and Magnum PI.
yes
And
that's
like
incredible.
Yeah, and there's other, I can't think of any, but there were other examples like that where they did crossovers of like 2 completely different shows. Yeah. Like with each other, well, and for some reason that's what I was thinking of, and I'm
like The Simpsons and The Critic.
Yeah.
Well, they have the Netflix Christmas cinematic universe where everybody shows up in each other's things, and
jeez,
it's incredible.
Yeah. No, you're right, Jeff. I was just thinking of a different thing.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it.
Because I was reminded of it because there's I watch a lot of regular TV at work because I work in sports media and we have TVs on at work and stuff. So I see...
Oh, because you're a normie.
Yeah. So I see regular commercials at work.
Right.
And so there's been commercials recently for this crossover event happening between like 2 like procedural cop shows like NCIS and some other bullshit or whatever. So that's just been in my head.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, like crossovers are a lot more common now than they used to be, and
you know what I just thought of one? I thought of one. Brooklyn Nine-Nine and New Girl. They did a crossover episode.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
So yeah. People like briefly appeared. I think like Jess appeared in a little bit of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Jake appeared in a little bit of New Girl or something. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but I was like, I know there's an example that I'm like trying to rack my brain. I'm like, I know one. Yeah. That's the one I remember.
This also isn't the last crossover that we're going to get in TNG.
No.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's actually, should I say? Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
go for it.
it
It's
doesn't
not
matter.
spoiling anything.
Yeah, it's not spoiling, but there's a crossover episode with DS9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bring a character over and they do an episode with him as like a guest star, and it's interesting.
The storyline, I think we're gonna have to like make some decisions about that because the storyline, I think, concludes in a DS9 episode.
No, it wraps up in TNG.
Does it?
Decently? Yeah.
I could have sworn they did something on DS9's end.
There's like a reference to it in DS9 where they kind of do a bit, but it's not like the episode isn't wrapped up in DS9.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't
just
know
thought
if
of something.
What?
Oh no. Okay, this was the wrong thing for me to think. Okay. So if Spock is part, okay, it's the same Spock in TNG as in the original series, correct?
Yes.
That's right. He's quite old.
Okay. So Leonard Nimoy as Spock appears in the J.J. Abrams movies.
Yep, as
So,
an even
like-
older Spock.
Yeah, so like in his universe there's been 2 Kirks.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of the J.J.
That's-
Abrams movies is that it's a timeline split. In that
Yeah.
they...
Oh my god.
So he travels back in time because... Okay. It's a whole convoluted thing. And the thing is like, they don't explain any of this in the movie, but there's a fucking...
No, they explain it a little bit.
A little bit, but if you want the full explanation, there's a fucking Star Trek comic book you have to read.
Yes.
So basically, like, in the future, the sun of Romulus is gonna fucking explode. And Spock is, like, trying to help them out, and it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah.
Then, so the guy who's in the movie,
Eric Bana plays the bad guy, I think.
Yeah.
He, for some reason, blames Spock for the sun blowing up because they weren't able to save it in time.
You didn't help enough. It's your fault.
Yeah, he didn't help enough. So he travels back in time in order to fuck with Kirk for some reason. I forget. And so Spock follows him back in time to try to fix things.
So
But
it's a different timeline?
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's a
Okay.
different
It's
timeline.
so Star Trek is very inconsistent about time travel, but essentially what happens is as soon as Eric Bana's Romulan that looks nothing like Romulans,
Yeah, he's
that
got a
looks
thing on
nothing
the
like a
forehead.
Yeah. As soon
And
as
he's
Eric
bald,
Bana
isn't
shows
he?
up, yeah, he shaved his head. As soon as Eric Bana's ship shows up, he changed history, and there's a divergent timeline.
Yeah, because he killed Kirk's dad, I think. And-
Yes.
Yeah, because the
Wait,
opening-
that's Thor, isn't it? Isn't that
Yes.
Chris Hemsworth? Oh my
Yes, it is.
god.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at me remembering something. Oh my god.
Yeah, so
my
he
God.
changed the timeline. So that's why the which is referred to which? I believe the J.J. Abrams timeline is that the Kelvin timeline, or is that
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah,
so,
because that's the name of that ship that was there when
Right.
it split.
yeah. So yeah, the J.J. Abrams thing is that is a separate timeline. So it's still so there haven't been 2 Kirks like necessarily. It's just he interacts with a Kirk from a different timeline.
Okay. I do, on a very quick side note, just
Time
have
travel
to say,
shit is always like weird and convoluted.
And stupid.
Yeah.
I do love the idea that Chris Hemsworth would be Chris Pine's dad.
Yeah.
that's like the Chris cinematic universe. It's getting a little too
Yeah.
too like Chris.
Yeah.
Too many Chris's.
It does
that-
make sense that Thor would be Mario's dad. Yeah, that's true.
Chris
Wait,
Pine
Thor would
isn't
be
Mario.
Mario's dad.
Oh,
Chris
no,
Pratt
sorry.
is Mario.
I mixed up my Chris's. Sorry. It's
Yeah.
a big cinematic universe, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mixed him up with the worst Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris Pratt sucks.
Sorry, I mixed him up with I mixed Jurassic Park boy up with Wonder Woman's boyfriend. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who
yes.
died and then was brought back from the dead. Spoilers.
Yeah, I hate that.
Well,
Yeah. I
we've
think we've
had,
talked
we've
about
had
that.
many we've had an intense
We've talked about Wonder
discussion.
Woman too. I may agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I didn't even see it. I'm good. I was just making fun of it.
Do like Chris Pine. I like him very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine.
a good
I don't mind him as Kirk, but he's not one of the standouts in the film. I don't.
Not
think.
your
No.
Kirk.
I-
Hashtag not your Kirk. Not my
Honest-
Kirk. I guess.
honestly,
No, it's he's fine, but his acting isn't much like a Kirk, and that's okay. Like he was doing his own take on it, and that's not a problem. I don't have any issue with it. It just didn't really hit
Yeah.
me that well. I thought it was fine. Like he did a good job.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a standout character for me in it.
I thought Zachary Quinto was an amazing Spock, to be honest.
I think
I really liked him as Spock.
there are times when he is, but then there's other times when he was given dialogue that just really did not work for him, I think.
Yeah, but
And
that's not his
That kind of
fault.
frustrated me. Oh, no, I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just saying that the way that the stories were written ends up hindering that performance at certain times, and that kind of frustrates me.
Yeah.
But I do think he does a good job whenever he's given the right material to do it.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the Discovery Spock. He's fine. He's whatever.
He's
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
better in what's it called in Strange New Worlds.
I
Oh
like
yeah,
think
I have to
yeah.
catch up on Strange New Worlds because I only
It's
watched
absolutely
good.
worth it.
I only watched the
I
pilot.
quite like him in that.
Yeah, me and my roommate were watching it.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
I
Yeah.
always remember
Yeah.
back when we were discussing the pilot, and you're like, "Oh, so this is the Spock that fucks," and then Jeff
Yeah,
and I
he
had
does.
no,
He
but
does fuck.
he does fuck,
Ugh.
but so does the original Spock. There's a
Yup.
whole
Just-
episode about how Spock fucks.
Oh yeah.
Yup.
I guess the character fucks.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, I do like this Spock though in the Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect show.
yeah.
But
it's not.
I mean, Star
but
Trek in
it's,
honestly-
general isn't a perfect.
but
show.
it
Yeah.
was fun. Like they're doing like another season, right?
yeah,
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
because they
Well, I am-
spoiled that Kirk is going to be in it.
Well, he was in.
No, he was already in it.
He was already in it.
Oh, in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, he's actually it's a real good set of episodes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And his
I would
brother's
say
in
it's it's the standout from the series.
okay. Yeah, I definitely have to catch up on that.
Yeah, it's the guy
Do it.
from Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
Who's not the guy from Lost.
I never watched Vampire Diaries or Lost.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't watch that much of Vampire Diaries, but I watched all of Lost.
All right. I guess we should continue.
Wrap up.
Wrap up.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think so. My favorite moment is hands down the Data awkward staring bit.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
Jeff,
me
that's
too.
probably your favorite as well.
Yeah, I already mentioned that. It's specifically the turn.
Yeah.
God, that turn.
All right. So if we have nothing else, I guess we'll just move on to predictions.
Sure.
So yeah, predictions is also going to be really simple. What do you think happens from here? Keeping in
Okay.
mind that the episode is called Unification.
Not part 2.
It is part 2, yeah.
It's actually called Unification 2.
2.0.
Electric Boogaloo.
Two unified. Two unified. Two Spock. Okay, so I mean they found Spock, so I think. Oh God, I don't know. Okay, well they'll find out why Spock is there.
So why do
Maybe-
you think Spock is there?
Okay, there is a TV show on Netflix. It's called like Dark Tourist or something.
Yeah.
So maybe this is Spock's version. No, I'm kidding. Obviously not. This isn't his version. I think maybe like I feel like it's got to do with some shitty intelligence because they've been fucking up with intelligence this episode. Everybody knows shit. I feel like Spock maybe heard something of like something to do with either the Romulans attacking or something or doing something or some kind of I don't know. And so he goes to because his friend because Pardek has got influence, so because he seems to be pretty well liked, and maybe to try to convince him to be like, because he's an advocate for peace, that like, hey, maybe we get enough people to like, maybe we don't like start a thing, maybe we keep the peace or something, and maybe get enough people to support that, like the shit that Spock thinks is gonna happen won't happen. I also wonder if it's connected to the B plot from this episode, of the maybe the Romulans have been getting like, maybe they're the ones who've been secretly getting the like stuff that has been sent to the ship. Mm-hmm. So like maybe either they've like hired a middleman to like pick up shit. So it's like they've independent contractors to like pick up these supplies and then take them back to Romulus or something. And
I think you're looking for the word mercenaries.
Well, I don't think they're looking to like, well, to me, mercenaries are like there to like harm or something. I feel like independent contractor
Well, like
is the route I want to go in this.
Well, mercenaries
I think it sounds
like,
funnier.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
So yeah. Because I wonder, like, I
or
feel like
smugglers. I guess smugglers is more.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Smugglers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're like taking this stuff. I wonder if I think it might be going to the Romulans, and they like maybe blew up the Ferengi ship so they could like take over the spot to get the like to like cover their tracks of like getting of being able to like get the deliveries. Because it was like traced to the Tripoli, which is gone, so like they took the Tripoli spot. Yeah. So yeah, I think it goes back. I think it connects back to the Romulans. I think it's connected to the A plot.
Okay.
And maybe they're using these like, because it was I wrote it down. I know what's in the shipment of deuterium.
Deuterum.
I don't know what the fuck whatever the fuck it's called. What is that? Do we know what that is?
Of course not.
Oh,
okay.
Wait, was it deuterium? Is that what it is?
Yes, something like it's because they said
it's
shipment.
Like deuterium. That's just like a fake Star Trek, like.
I thought maybe it was like.
Yeah.
I was like thinking, what if that's like an explosive or something? And they were like, that was what was being like sent to that, like what could have been sent to the smuggler ship to be used towards whatever the like Romulans could be like planning, but I guess if that's not actually relevant.
Yeah, it's just like it's a fake Star Trek medal.
Oh. Well, it would have been better if it was connected like that.
No, it could still be connected.
Well, I mean, like that particular item.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's connected. I think that these are the smuggler/independent contractors getting stuff for the Romulans.
All right, cool.
To pull some shit.
All
yeah.
Right. Well,
that's what I'm going with.
Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.